I just got back from an early screening of the movie Relay, which is scheduled to be released August 22nd. I want to talk about the movie, but I will not give spoilers until the very end, and you'll have plenty of warning before that. So I guess this movie actually isn't technically a new movie. It came out last year at the Toronto Film Festival. I didn't know that until after I watched the movie. The reason I saw an early screening is because my local movie theater chain has a thing where if you pay like $6, you can see a new movie that hasn't been released yet, but you don't know what the movie is before you see it. Last time I saw Sketch, the time before that it let me see Jurassic World. This time it was a movie I had never heard of called Relay. I knew nothing about the movie going in. I didn't know what it was about. I never saw a trailer. I never saw posting about it on social media. I went into the movie completely blind with no expectations whatsoever. And then I started to see some company logos and studio logos that I had never heard of before. And I'm thinking to myself, oh great, this is going to be some cheesy slasher movie or something. But it wasn't that at all. The movie starts off with some excellent cinematography. You see a guy walking down the street in New York. There's some eerie music playing. You walk into a cafe. You really have no idea what's going on. He sits at the table with a stranger, and they have an odd conversation, which sets the tone for the movie. I didn't know if this was going to be a horror movie, a police drama. I didn't know what the hell this thing was when I started watching it, but the movie, through interesting dialogue, Hitchcockian camera angles, they did a lot of slow zooms, they did a lot of coming into it from the side sort of thing. So it really felt like the cinematographer knew how to, or the director, whoever's responsible for it, knew how to frame the image and knew how to build tension through a visual storytelling. Very much like a Hitchcock movie, at least to begin with. I want to talk about the movie's R rating because that's one of the only things the movie theater tells you about these mystery movies is how long it is and what it's rated. So being that it's rated R, I was really afraid it was going to be some really corny slasher movie, which I do not like that type of movie. But this movie was barely rated R. It got its R rating from just a couple too many F-bombs and just mild profanity. Yes, they were the words that you can't say in a PG movie, but they didn't use them a lot. If you're an adult watching the movie, you might almost not even notice the profanity. The violence, I'm not going to get into spoilers here, but watching an R-rated movie that's a thriller, you're probably going to expect some violence. It's very subdued, very mild, very tame. It's actually exciting, but it's not overly graphic. There's no blood and guts spattering on the walls or anything like that. It's just a movie that builds tension through interesting dialogue, interesting situations, and interesting setups and payoffs that mostly work. The basic premise of the movie is there's a guy whose job it is to relay messages between potential whistleblowers and the companies that they've got dirt on. And this guy facilitates those things through a relay call center, which is a real thing I'm familiar with because I have had in my life call center experience, and I have family members and friends who work in call centers. And this is a real thing where if somebody is hard of hearing, they can use a teletype machine. Somebody at the call center will relay what is typed, hence the name of the movie Relay. They will relay the message to the other person on the phone, and you respond by speaking directly with the person and ending each line with "go ahead" when you're finished, so they know that they're finished typing and the other person can begin talking. Because of HIPAA and privacy regulations and stuff like that, because these are conversations with the hearing impaired, they're not allowed to transcribe the calls, and they're not allowed to keep records of who calls. So when they try to investigate who's calling who through these burner phones and whatnot, they can't divulge the information. Not that they won't, it's that they literally can't. Pretty clever, interesting setup for the movie. The basic premise of the movie is that this woman has dirt on the company she works for, and she gets help from this relay service messenger guy who is going to help her give the documents back. She's changed her mind. She doesn't want to be the whistleblower anymore. She just wants her life back. And through the relay message service, this guy and this company and this woman sort of have, the triangle of conversations. And all that is really neat. There's a lot of cat and mouse. There's a lot of redirect and chasing. And it's really fun to see how this guy sets things up in advance. And that leads to some great sequences and a lot of fun. But then about halfway through the movie, it seems like they sort of run out of ideas and they try to stretch it out a little thin. They start to introduce some character stuff, which is relevant to the movie later, but it sort of bogs the movie down, kind of interrupts the pacing a little bit. The tension is lost about midway through the movie. It ramps back up again in an interesting way. but that middle section, like that middle 20 minutes of the movie, kind of drags a little bit. Without going into spoilers, yet the movie has a mostly satisfying conclusion. There are some twists that they try to foreshadow, but they don't want you to figure it out until the big reveals. A lot of thriller movies do that sort of thing, and it doesn't quite succeed. At least it didn't for me. Overall, I give this movie a moderate thumbs up. It wasn't great. It was a very interesting premise, and I like that it's not based on a book or a movie. It's not a prequel, sequel, reboot, or whatever, and it's nice to see these small movies get some attention. I hope this movie does fairly well. I mostly liked it. I have some gripes, but mostly the execution was pretty good. The music in the movie was actually kind of interesting. It's not a big cinema score. It's rather subdued. You forget that the music is there, but it adds to the tone of the movie. Picks up the pace a little bit when things get exciting. Gets a bit dreary when there's conversations about sad things. The music is sort of just in the background, but it works. It does something to your psychology just to hear the right tone when the corresponding thing is happening on the screen. So I like the music in this movie, even though it's very subdued, but it was effective. All right, now we're going to go into spoiler territory, full spoiler territory. 3, 2, 1, go. The big plot twist of the movie is that the woman who hired this guy through the relay service is actually the main villain. And I figured it out about 5 seconds before the big reveal of that. I kind of felt dumb that I didn't pick up on it sooner because they definitely give you clues. She messes up the instructions that he gives her so that people can find out who he is. The real goal is to track down this relay service guy so that they can find out information from one of his past clients, who they show briefly at the beginning of the movie. It's a neat twist, but it takes too long to get to it, and it seems a little bit out of left field. I kind of had a feeling it was about to happen right before it did. He gets kidnapped, brought into a van, and when they have the gun on her, I'm like, okay, she's in on it. And 2 seconds later, you learn that she's in on it. In fact, she's the one in charge. Just when you think all is lost and our hero is about to be snatched up, killed, or whatever, the police show up, because this is actually something they set up earlier. He's in the Alcoholics Anonymous program, and one of the people in the program with him is a cop. So he basically tells her about what's going on, and the police show up just in the nick of time. Seems like a little bit of a contrivance, but they did set it up earlier with the AA stuff, so I guess it works. The movie drags a little bit in the middle. The ending seems a little bit at odds with the previous part of the movie. The first half of the movie is fantastic, the middle drags, and the ending is sort of okay. I'm glad I watched this movie, though, because this is a movie I would have never watched had I not had the mystery movie thing. So kudos to Marcus Theatre Chains for doing that. Let me know in the comments what you think. Did you see this at the Toronto International Film Festival? Are you planning on seeing it when it comes out? If you've seen it, let me know what you think. If you have any suggestions about movies that I can review, I take a look at a lot of old movies, so let me know. And until next time, folks, my name is Eric Wilford Watson, signing out.